Welcome to Season 2 of the Pull Hook Golf Podcast. Here's your hosts, Matt Cook and Bobby Brown. Welcome back, everybody, to the Pull Hook Golf Podcast. This is episode number 24. I'm your host, Matthew Cook. I've got my co-host here, Mr. Bobby Brown, who happens to caddy on the PGA Tour. So again, if you've been living under a rock or just starting to tune in to the show, we've got the famous Mr. Bobby Brown. He's on the bag of good old Mr. Troy Merritt. So Bobby, welcome to episode number 24, my friend.
Thank you.
We're going to be diving in. Right off the bat, we're going to dive into the BMW Championship that just ended 2 days ago. We're recording this on Tuesday, August 23rd. I even had to look at the calendar there for a second to make sure I knew what the date was. These days are blurring together, my friend. But with that said, we'll also talk about the upcoming Tour Championship at East Lake, and then really we'll dive into the topic that I know a lot of people are interested in, but we kind of alluded to it on Instagram, was around that LIV just kind of released to the media that they're going to introduce 7 new players from the PGA Tour that are moving over to LIV, and you and I have some insight, and more so you than I do, that we'll be sharing with our audience tonight as to some people that might not necessarily be going that was going previously. So it might not be that full 7 number that LIV was touting. But let's start off with the recap of the BMW Championship. Take us through your week, Mr. Bobby Brown.
And what started off is a lot of dreams for a lot of us guys that were there. Everybody's got a dream of getting to Atlanta, and it means so much to everybody. And I just don't mean like you're proud of yourself, but I mean like business stuff, like status and that kind of stuff. You're in every major. They just changed the Maui, how you get into Maui. It used to be a winners only tournament, and they just announced in the last couple of days that if you make the Tour Championship, you will also be in Maui. So that's a huge thing. That's like the best. Yeah. Maui's like the best tournament of the year. I've been lucky. Dustin won there in 2013. I've probably been there 9 or 10 times. And it's just like, man, you're like, I'm going to Maui. Everybody's like, Augusta. And I'm like, you're fucking going to Maui, dude. They gave you a good Caddie's good deal at the Ritz. $275 plus still comes out to fucking expensive. And you can't really put 3 caddies in a room because everybody that's like the big family week too, with the kids and the wife and moms and everything like that. So the good news is when it was 27 or 30 players, you were never losing money as a caddy, right? Because you were guaranteed pay. It was probably 50 or 60K DFL. And now with the addition of the Tour Championship guys, I think the purse is going to go up. I'm hearing rumors.
You think so?
That secret meeting that they had last week.
I heard blood was drawn and they had to mix it in with everybody else's. It was like a underground secret society that took place. When you can't get me info from that tells you
nothing. Listen, I had to think about it long and hard, and I had to swallow my pride. But if you want scoop on average players and that kind of stuff, and caddy shakeups and just dirt, I'm your guy. But if you want top priority information from the top 5 players in the world, I'm not your guy.
Yeah, that's not this podcast, people.
I don't hobnob with the rich and the famous anymore. I had like a 6-year run where I was one of those guys, and I was like, sometimes that I'm like, man, that was fun. When you're working for a top 5 player in the world, you never really have a bad week. You never have a bad check. You're flying private everywhere, doing what you want to do. And you pick up the phone and you're like, hey, I'm so-and-so. I'm Dustin Johnson's caddy. They're like, 10:38. You don't even finish it. 10:38. What time do you want? And that kind of stuff. Now you pick up the phone and they're like, oh, yeah, please hold. And they put you on. But anyways, the BMW, like I said, it was great dreams for everybody. I guess I'll just start with my experience, because my experience was all about probably the first hour and a half to 2 hours when Troy Merritt was not outside. Hits 8 greens in a row, was not outside 11 feet, Matt. 11 feet the first 7 holes.
He made 3 of them.
And he had like a 17-footer on 8, and he still wasn't putting great. A few putts went in, but 4 and 6 footers that, I hate to say he makes like 90% of it. But before Minnesota, I felt like he did make 90% of them, and he just You know, he just couldn't get the ball in the hole. It's so weird. I walked off a 7 green and I remember thinking, mumbling to myself, and I'm like, we should be fucking 7 under right now. You know how when you see guys going Yahtzee, like, oh, he made 3 in a row, 4 in a row, and then you get to like 5 in a row, and randomly you'll see 6 in a row, but you don't ever see 7 in a row. And I mean, it honestly, I sound like a big pussy, but it could have been like that. It should have been like that, but we turned it 3 under, got to 4 under, and then just kind of pissed back and made a couple bogeys coming in. You know, remember I was telling you last week, I'm like, this is a big boy golf course. And,
Oh yeah.
You know, it's a typical, I'm going to take that down a little bit. That was a little harsh because it was a big boy golf course, but you had a ton of wedges in there. Even a guy like Troy Merritt, who carries at 290 or 295, we had a ton of wedges going in there. And I'll tell you one thing about, even though it wasn't the greatest week for us, but I got, you know, you get that little bit of a rush and that little bit of a thrill when you know your man's striping it, has been striping it for a month. And, you know, I had it all week the week before in Memphis, but I think we ended up finishing T58, but he had a sick ass wedge game going, right? Like we kept falling on like 96 to like 115. And he was so dialed in with these, like, I can't even describe it, like these spinny cutty hold things that you're just like, when they leave the club, they don't even make a sound, right? Wedges usually make a sound digging into the ground. And man, I got to experience that all week, where it was like 4 feet, 6 feet, crowds going crazy, like he burned a couple edges and stuff. And I don't know, you come home, you know, I don't want to dive into the whole personal thing of it yet, but you come home and you're like, you reanalyze. I came back home on Sunday night, and Lori and the boys picked me up. And traveling on Sundays, folks, is not fun in an airport right now. I just want to tell everybody, you cannot find any personal space whatsoever. Usually I like to hibernate, you know, because if it's after a golf tournament, like randomly some creeper dude will lock eyes on you and you know, follow you and want to ask you questions and stuff like that. And you're like, dude, get the fuck away from me. I just want to be alone right now and see my kids and call it a year. But let's talk about the winner, Patrick Cantlay. What a performance. No surprise. You know, I caught myself looking at the leaderboard stacking up late. I think it was on Friday. And I had like a LIV epiphany, because I'm like, you know, Cantlay, Scheffler, Zalatoris, I mean, Schauffele, who am I missing in there?
Well, Zalatoris pulled out, right, with the back
No,
injury?
yeah, but yeah.
But you were looking at the lead. Yep.
Yeah, I was. Excuse me, and I got it wrong. It was late in our round, and we teed off early on Friday. And Will, I think, it actually made it 3 quick birdies or something, if I'm not mistaken. I got to 4 under, so yeah. I saw him charging up. But I guess my moment was just, I was like, man, look at that leaderboard right there. LIV can't match that. Yeah, you got Dustin and Koepka and all those guys, and Dane Chebo, all those big names, but you know what I mean? You had the core group of the ballers out here going at it in the playoffs, super excited. It's the first time we've ever been in Wilmington. And let me tell you something, that golf course and the people in that area, you're like, would you call it the transition of the Great Northeast Golf? That's kind of the transition area moving up, right? Because then you move right into Jersey, and it's just like they love their golf there. Everybody was excited.
Pine Valley's not that far away, right?
They were having fun. They were saucing up and saying some shit. I mean, we caught a few guys, same guy on like a few tees, who apparently they still make phones that when you take a picture or a video or something, they go click, 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 click. And they got it like 3 times. And finally, after the second time, I just looked at the guy and I go, what the fuck's with the phone, man? You're standing on a tee box at a PGA Tour event. So other than that little bad experience, it was a great fan experience. And hey, big shout out.
I got hole number 5 behind me here. Does that look familiar?
So check. So on Friday.
By the way,
Friday, the pin is right. Okay, everybody that's watching this, it's just right of Matt's ear, like 4 over the corner there. With the water, the water's in play on every shot on that green, because you can't use the front, and it's 4 from the left. But what people don't know is that first like 2.5 bases that you got to cover right there all slope down. So if you kill one into that hill, there's no catch right there. That's actually a fresh picture, I think, of the tournament, because those trees are recognizable over there, because I spent some time in those too. So on Friday, he hits a 7-iron on that pin, and I'm like, it's not a go-to pin. Look at that green, right? Yeah, and there's a big sideboard out there to the right. You can funnel one down in if you're proper quality shot, maybe 10 feet or 12 feet. But he hits a 7-iron, and we're talking about fucking taking 25 yards, pin right, and he leaves a club, and I'm like, oh shit, I'm like, right at it. Please be the right club, right? So it's coming down, and I lose it, right? And I hear some oohs and ahs, and I'm like, what the hell? There's probably 100 people behind that green. And I look at Troy, and before I can even stand my head, he's like, it hit the top of the brick wall. He's like, I caught it a little fat, and it's over the back of the green, and he chipped it up. He chipped it up into the wrap and that kind of stuff. But I had one of those whoops moments, like, why is he fucking going with this flag? So, but it was a great week, great experience. It's a really good golf course, bent grass, greens. I thought, I didn't know anything about it. I just assumed it was going to be like this hard, firm toe. And the ball just stayed on the grass, man. You know what I mean? It's just, if you hit a good putt, which it didn't work for our camp. And it's funny with Troy, with his putting and that kind of stuff, I just felt like this guy's so golf smart, and he's 10 years playing the same pins on the same courses. He's got one of those psychotic memories that, he'll like miss a putt, and he'll just look at me, and it's like 30 feet, and he'll go, man, I had the same putt like 3 years ago, and it actually went left leg. And I'm like, oh, wow, that's pretty cool to hear. Come on, let's get to the next tee, dog. Get one down the middle. But, I just don't think he read the greens good, and I could tell it on Friday. So I come in on the West Coast, right? I come in at Pebble, Torrey, any West Coast course, or if he really doesn't know, which happens sometimes 0 times a week, honestly. I'm just sitting there looking at the dot for the next day. If people don't know, the officials are out early in the morning, and they pre-planned every pin positions. So they'll have a little tiny white spray paint dot. So if you ever see caddies like that, look like they're stepping something off away from the players from the greens, we're looking at that dot just to make sure it matches up with the pin sheet, what we have. Yeah. And we're looking at slopes. We're looking at where to miss and where not to miss if you get out of position, blah, blah, blah. So I was going to tell you on Friday, when I sensed he wasn't reading these greens any good. So I'm like, I'm going to start creeping in, right? I'm going to start, like, when I pull the flag, I am going to, look at from the back of the hole, see if he takes the hint, right? Because I felt like I saw him pretty good, because he was over a couple putts where I'm like, he does not think that this is right edge when I got it like a ball out left. This would be the one week I'd be able to get away with saying that. So, man, he kept shining me on. And it got to the point that we decided we were going to put the flag in sometimes and leave the flag out sometimes. Oh, no. Because he was going to focus in on just the ball hitting the flag, not edges or seeing things that he normally does. And let me tell you something, that flag in thing from 4 feet makes me nervous as shit. But he was probably like 23 for 23. He didn't miss from 4 feet when the flag was in. He missed from 4 feet without the flag in. So we got to, I want to say, he shined me on all the way to Sunday, and then I kept going at it, man. I was relentless. I kept going at it. I'm like, he's got to call me in soon.
Now, does he normally call you in on putts?
Never. No. He called me in on like almost a lot at Pebble, but I don't. I have a lot of them memorized at Pebble. Some of those greens at Pebble are new. They've been. People don't know, but they'll close a green randomly at Pebble, and they'll put in a sub air there. And they just don't. They have the same slopes. They're not really changed, but they just don't, for whatever reason, with the sub air, they don't break like they, like I remember them breaking. But when he reads putts at Pebble, I'm standing there with him, and he's describing the putt to me, and I'm just going to correct him one way or the other, which probably didn't happen more than a half a dozen times in 4 rounds, 72 holes and umpteen. That's probably close to 120 putts. So it's a small percentage, but this time I was adamant, right? I was going to get in it.
Because you guys haven't played that golf course before, so it's great to get.
We haven't, and he was losing
2 sets of eyes.
Yeah, 2 sets of eyes, and I'm never scared about reading a putt. I mean, I've been, just an average golfer, but I always felt like I could putt it. I don't know if you've ever had this feeling, but I've never had a putt in my life that I don't think I can't make, and that's the attitude I think you have to have. I've had putts that scare me and that kind of stuff, when you're playing for hundreds of dollars and it doesn't seem like a lot, but it's still you don't want to you don't want to lose money. Nobody wants to lose money. So we get to Sunday. Most of these greens, like that one right there, you can't tell, but there's a low side and there's a ridge, there's a big slope, and then there's another quadrant. You're trying to hit quadrants, basically front and back on most of them. So on 8, he hit in the right bunker for the 2nd day in a row. And we actually had a shot this time, and he hit something out there like 35, 45 feet from the bottom of the slope up over the top. And he watched it go by, right? And I'm like, oh, man, I think he watched that go by. But I got in there and did my thing. And he's like, Bob, what do you think? And I'm like, holy shit.
I'm getting called in.
4.5 footer you watch go by. Way to call me in, dude. What a team player. Thank God you signed the checks. So I got, and I looked at it for a while, you know, when he was doing his thing, and I'm like, I got to wiggle in a little bit right. And at first, like, I was like left edge a little bit out, and he's like, I don't see that. He's like, I see straight. And I'm like, okay, I got a little right in it if it runs out of speed. That's my final last words. Right? So he's over it, and all of a sudden he goes, yeah, it's inside left, and he buried it. And that was it. That was the only time he called me, and he was like 1 for 1. I got back to the locker room, and I'm like, I did not miss a read this week. Fuck all you caddies in here that are making funny.
No wonder you love it, though.
Yeah,
I mean, you did say Troy is a pretty easy guy to caddy for. Yeah, low maintenance. I mean, now I understand even further that, like, I mean, but you wanted that. You wanted to be called in on those.
You know what was fun? You know what was fun for me this week was huge for me? It was a brand new golf course, right? And while he's doing his stuff in the practice rounds, I am looking at everything. And God did not give me much in this world, but he gave me one of those memories where when it comes to a green or slopes or something like that, I really don't. God, I don't want to say picture perfect memory, but I got one of those freaky ass Rain Man memories when it comes to that shit. So I got to caddy last week, right? He hadn't seen every single shot. He hadn't seen one. So, you know, the first couple of days I'm like, attack the right. And I'm just fucking getting in there like Tom Brady in a huddle or something, you know, attack the right. There's a little kicker over there. And he's like looking at his book. And I'm like, yeah, the book doesn't show it. They changed the book rules. I got all the secret juju right there. And it was when it's working fun like that, when you get to call shots and stuff, it's coach. You know,
That's
$15 million. Yeah, $15 million purse, 2.7 to the winner. T58 got us like 33 grand. I'm like, oh my God. And you know, and I got to be honest, and I'm just being completely honest. Other caddies won't say that, but when it's Sunday and you like starting at like T38 to T45 or something, you know, if you shoot 3 or 4 under, especially on that golf course, you're like, it's a fucking $15 million purse. You know, top 30 pays 100K. So yeah, for a caddy, that could be anywhere between 8 and 12 grand more, which is huge. I mean, that is big, you know, especially with the off season coming up and not going. So on Sundays, I start thinking that shit, you know, no joke. I'm like, fuck, we got to press it on. And then you get to 28th, you know, then you fall back to 42nd and you realize you lose track. And you're like, okay, we got to keep pushing. We just got to keep pushing. And it wasn't meant to be, but 30 great guys are already in Atlanta for, you know, other than Maui, definitely the best tournament of the year to me. And how about a big shout out to my guy Scott Stallings for that performance out there.
And he didn't fade.
No, but if you know Scott Stallings, of course he hasn't won in probably 6 years, I think it is. But if you knew the early Scott Stallings that had different caddies, because he has an A+ caddy, John Yarborough, on the bag, who reads all the greens, calls all the putts and that kind of stuff, and that's a lot of pressure on a caddy. Yeah, and he is A+. He does the aim point thing with the feet, and he's all over there, and he doesn't get in anybody's way. He's got it mastered to a science, you know, and Scotty just leans on him. So those are two great guys. And I was going to tell you, Scott Stallings, no scaredy cat. He got a little chip on his shoulder, right? Like he's a badass dude. He's kind of chunky dude going around with an attitude and confidence, and won a couple times, and then, you know, he changed his whole body. You know, it's changed his whole body. I can't tell you how many times over the last 3 or 4 years, like when we had to test for COVID and that kind of stuff, I'd like be driving into the offsite to test for COVID, and this dude would be run by me 20 miles an hour on the street. And I'm like, fucking Scott Stallings. And it was Scott Stallings. And every morning he's got this routine. And, you know, I tried to change up on my whole shit, my diet and everything the last year. And I lean on him for advice, but he is a specimen now. I still think in practice rounds, his shorts are way too small and short. And I'm going to talk to him about that. Because I don't need to see your jingle bells hanging out of it.
That's amazing. And how about my boy, Adam Scott? I mean,
well, yes, yeah. He is a thoroughbred, right? Isn't that the word? Thoroughbreds show up at big races.
But it wasn't the putter that let him down. It was definitely his golf swing.
Nah, I know, but I think he's been struggling with that driver, and every once in a while, not that in particular driver, but just his driver move.
But on Sunday, did you see it had to be a wedge? I mean, what's the par 3, the shorter one?
Matt, I was out there trying to crack the top 60. I couldn't watch Adam Scott at that time.
That's true, and I'm sure you didn't go back and watch.
I was probably rushing to the airport.
I mean, how often have we ever seen Adam Scott spray a pitching wedge? Probably 10 yards off of his target
Yeah.
line. I mean,
But
there were some skanky shots that he hit out there
but
on Sunday.
I'm gonna touche you on those two shots he hit into 12, that par five, the long irons he hit into that par five that he stuffed once to like 5 feet. Brother, can I tell you something? When you're standing up there in that fairway, number one, if you hit 100 tee shots there, you're probably going to hold 92 of them are getting on the right rough. It's just a huge left to right saddle. They move the tees up Saturday and Sunday to make it interesting, like these guys would go, because the layup area and even that area that you're hitting your layup from or going for the green into is so far downhill. It's like when you lay up at 15 at Augusta, people can't imagine. So to get a clean, pure strike on it is not easy, because we drove one on Saturday into the right. He got a bomb off there for Troy Merritt without kicker fairway, and we had a bomb in there, and we had like 221 front and 20 something. We like 248 or something. It's in the right first cut. Hey, check this out. You know what these geniuses did? They mowed the left first cut on every hole into the grain, and it was sticky like that big. And then they made the right first cut on every hole down grain. But the problem is the down grain ones had like a bunch of holes, and it wasn't what we would, you think you hit in the first cut, you're like, yeah, I'm in the first cut, it's no big deal. But mind over matter sometimes on the grass and how the ball comes out, because 8 or 9 times out of 10, I don't know if normal golfers experience this, but balls, you think you're going to get a clean strike on it, 8 times out of 10 they come off high on the face, right, and they come off dead. Have you ever experienced that? And they're posing on one, or you can tell by the sound, it just comes out slow. Greensboro's notorious for this, and this place was too. But I was going to tell you our story there. He's in the right first cut. We got like 240 something, and we put the 2-iron in, took the hybrid out, which we don't carry the hybrid that often. And it's sitting in the hole in the first cut, and he's like, "Oh, I just cut a 3-wood up there." And I'm like, "No, just dude." And I'm all about being aggressive, but I'm like, just lay it up, And he's like, "What am I going to lay it up with the sandwich?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I don't want to say in parentheses, nothing fucking bad can happen." When you lay up, it just doesn't. You're making 5 at the worst. He's like, "Oh, I'm going to cut a 3-wood in there, And I'm like, I didn't go back in, and maybe I should have now, but, I'm like, it's sitting in a hole, and I told him that. And he's like, "No, I can get on it," and it comes out dead and high right. It's in the soup, and he stuffs it in there to 4 feet for par from the drop zone and misses that. And you're just like, what the fuck? And then the next day we had, he hit it down the middle again, and we had 3-wood again, but it was a good one. It was like 259 or something, and it's the same shot. It comes out high and weak, right? Over that goddamn 4x4 cubicle drop zone over there that's right next to another tee, so every other player coming on that tee, like they fucking rinsed it. Was it a bad club? Was it a bad decision? No, man, it was a bad shot. I'm sure you had plenty of them this week. It just happens, but pretty good leaderboard for that finish, that's for sure.
It's fantastic. And how about Cantley going back to back again?
He's such a baller.
He is, and he's actually sneaky long. That's what's interesting.
He's big. He's big. I've seen the evolution of him. I got paired with him his first year out of UCLA when he got a spot in Hartford when I was working for Kyle Stanley. And Kyle Stanley hit it like 320 back then, and Cantley got some bombs off there. And I don't know if you've seen him up close, but he's got a big booty now and big legs, and he's strong, and that is effortless power right there. Really, isn't it? That is effortless power.
He's worked a lot with the guys at TPI. So being a Titleist guy has gone a lot into there, especially when he was having the back issues, because they ended up finding that his lower body, his hip turn, wasn't enough, and he was putting too much stress on his back because of it. So he would rotate his upper body, right, to about 110 degrees, but his hips would stay at like 20, which is insane. Normally, you're in the 40 range. Some players are even further, like Bryson, but he was putting so much pressure on his back, so they started to fix that, got him to turn a little bit more, which added additional power as well, and relieved the back issue, and then he's working out on top of that. But man, can this kid play. He's not the flashiest guy.
No, but where he's better than everybody else is this deal right there, right? Like, I've known him for a long time, 12 or 13 years, and he, my oldest son spent a lot of time in Long Beach, and it's just that whole Jamie Mulligan crew that I kind of came up with, his players. And, but you can never crack this guy. You can never crack his egg and get him to open up. And you can never figure out who he was or if he had a personality in there. And now I get the whole strategy That's him, right?
Yep.
He's like a mini tiger. He's like, I'm gonna fuck you up. I'm not gonna talk to you. Yeah, I'm playing the golf course, but I'm gonna kick your excuse me. I'm gonna kick your ass too. And that's a big thing for him. And he made comments. I think it was Ryder Cup. I was reading some stuff. He made some comments where they're like, "What's different about this?" He's like, "Well, it's number one is like I walk into the locker room and I'm talking to Dustin Johnson or I say hello to this guy. Whereas like a normal tour event, I wouldn't give anybody the time of day. For Christ's sake, why would I? I'm Patrick Cantlay. I'm the guy to beat. You kind of got to dig that. And by the way, how about the purest putting stroke on the planet right there? I love that shit because he drips them in too, right? And that's how I see putts just dripping in. And it's a thing of beauty when that stroke starts working on these greens. Like I said, if you caught a ball, if you hit it where you wanted to and you read it right, it was going in. There was no bumps. Or I saw Jordan miss like a 2-footer and got all dramatic and like pointed down at the green, so Jordanish. And it's like, dude, no, dude, you just jacked a 2-footer. You did it 3 holes ago with a 3-footer, which that's his deal sometimes, right? I don't know if he's so amped up and he just gets in there and he's so flustered by why that putts for par or bogey or whatever.
Loses focus.
Yeah, he had his issues. That's the whole where him and Greller had the big deal in the bunker.
Yeah.
Did you see that? Where Greller tried to get him out of there 2 or 3 times. And I know Michael Greller, he works super hard and he's super experienced, but I guarantee you he went home that night and he's like, man, what could I have done? Right? That's what the great caddies do. What could I have done? So now that's over. Atlanta's here and I'm sitting home on my couch.
Yeah, it's a bummer, but I got to go back to the putting. This is for all the amateurs out there.
Yeah.
For all the people listening, the natural putting stroke is just like a golf swing. If you look at Cam Smith, if you look at Patrick Cantlay, it is not square, or actually going back close is what a lot of guys do, and it stays on that same path going back, and then they open up the putter face as they come through to keep everything square, right? Where with Cantlay, with Cam Smith, there's a release of the putter head. They pull it to the inside slightly and actually release. And they were talking about it on the broadcast too with Cantlay, is that he likes to have that putter head release. Guess what? Tiger Woods, same thing. So some of the greatest putters in the world.
Yeah.
And certainly, I'm blanking on his name right now, but big time putting guru, Stan Utley. Big believer in that arc and a flow to the putting stroke. And I got to tell you guys, if you're an amateur out there and you're trying to keep the club or the putter face perfectly square going back and through, don't worry about it. Let it open up, let it flow, and what you will do is allow your athleticism and your hand-eye coordination to actually work. And for a lot of guys, that is the key. For Cantlay it is, for Cam Smith it is. There's a lot of guys out there that really rely on that. And so just a little tip for the amateurs out there, be a little bit more natural with that putting stroke, and you're going to start to see a little bit more putts drop in, unless you have a putting stroke like Adam Scott, which then that big broomstick. But dude, I can't get over it. Like
every stat.
Yeah, he's putting so well with that damn broomstick. It's unbelievable, Bobby.
He's a thoroughbred, bro. He's a thoroughbred.
He is. Now, Will Zalatoris, sad note here. I actually found out today multiple discs are literally out in his back. I mean, out of place.
Herniated is better than ruptured. And I'll share a story with you talking about Cantlay's bad back. See this thing right here? It's called a stem machine.
Oh, yeah, I know those.
I got 2 pads on my back at all times.
Shocks the crap out of you.
Bro, it feels good. Heat reducer, and it's good psychologically. And it keeps those muscles moving all the time. And the reason why I wear this is because in 2012, this week in Atlanta at the Tour Championship, Dustin had a chance to win it all. The next week was going to be the Ryder Cup, which he had made the team. 2 of the hugest weeks in his life, and 2 would have been the hugest weeks in my life. I'm staying in downtown Atlanta, getting ready for Friday morning's round, right? And we travel with these club gloves. Everybody's seen them, club glove makes those travel gloves. So I had all my shit, all my socks and stuff in there. So I'm sitting at the end of the bed, and it's funny. I felt my back for like a year. I'm like, man, my back feels stiff. I must be getting old. I never stretched or worked out or anything like that. Just took it all for granted, right?
Sure.
And I remember bending over my bed, and I couldn't really reach this pair of socks, right? And I remember before I reached down, I'm like, oh man, I shouldn't be doing this, but I did it anyways, right? So I reached down for this pair of socks, pop, right? Pop.
No.
Like I buckle, and I'm like, I can't move, I can't walk, I can't do anything. I literally couldn't bend over. So I got myself dressed. Dustin was picking me up. I went downstairs. It took me 5 minutes to get in the car and sit down. He's like, "Ball, what is wrong with your back, bro?" And I'm like, "You're not gonna believe this just happened. I'm all worked up." And he's like, "Ball, we got get another caddy. You can't even walk, bro." And I'm like, "I can make it." You know, the money wasn't as big, but it was still huge. And I'm like, "I can make it. It's the Tour Champions Friday. You're in the mix, right?" So I've never been in so much pain in my life. And let me tell you something about mine was the L4, L5. You can't even sit on the toilet and go poop.
Oh,
That's how
that
bad it is.
sucks.
Because when your back's
Yeah.
like this, is the worst thing. It needs to be more, straight up and down and more of your pelvic forward. So I'm 100 yards behind him the whole front side on Friday, and he's aggro and he's not playing that good. So we get to tee, and he's like, "Bob, you gotta get the fuck out, bro." And I'm like, "Come on, man." He goes, "Nope, there's Hoop over there, Cameron Hooper. He played golf with him at Coastal Carolina, local yokel. He's wearing loafers." He's like, "I already told Hoop at the turn, you're out, he's coming in." So an official drives over, picks me up, takes me to the physio trailer, and I couldn't. This is the reason why I'm getting this story is because I saw the replay of Zalatoris when he got in the cart. Did you notice he was holding the handrail and trying to keep his butt and his back off of the seats and be more pelvic out? And I'm like, God damn it, that reminds me exactly what I felt like when that official drove me over the physio trailer. And brother, that was 10 years ago. And can I just tell you something? Granted, he's not 48 years old when it happened, and he's got a great team around him of physios, and he'll be able to get the best help he possibly can. But it never goes away. Herniated discs don't ever really heal. You just learn how to manage them and do a lot of core stretching, and you change your diet.
I
And
mean,
I'm
look
sure
at Tiger. Look at what
yeah,
Tiger went through with the back and
yeah,
everything dealing with that. And I mean, shoot, I saw him at a poker event way back when we were working with him in golf technology, and he couldn't sit in a dang chair. Like, in order to get up, he was doing the whole stiff back thing and couldn't really move, and he was playing at the time. And it's like,
right.
whew, how do you even play with that? But
Oh man,
Zalatoris, unfortunately, I mean, gosh, that's the
that's
TBI guys were talking before he got injured about his move and everything. And then there were some comments about, it looks like he's putting a lot of stress on his lower back. And then this
yeah,
happens, and it's like, oh man, you hate to see it because he does have a little bit where he drops back and arches
yeah,
his back and gets almost into a reverse
yeah,
C.
yeah.
And that always puts a little stress on the back. And he's going to have to he's gonna have to change his move.
Yeah, well, I mean, possibly. Hopefully he bounces back from this. Okay,
I
I mean,
hope
I've been
so
saying the same
because
thing
I'm a
about
huge
Joaquin.
fan of Will Zalatoris.
Well, who isn't? He's great
Yeah,
for the game right now. We need him, right? He's going
and
to be
he's
the
a great
pioneer.
guy.
He's going to lead this. He's going to lead this tour into the future here shortly. So like he is he's the ray of sunshine that the PGA Tour is counting on. So knock on wood that everything works out. But he's going to. I've been saying this about Joaquin Niemann since the first time I saw him.
Oh
So he
gosh,
hasn't had
yeah,
that
same.
problem. Years people said that about Dustin, right? But you might just think Dustin's like Michael Phelps, right? He's like so flexible, and I do remember a couple of tournaments Dustin having back problems and pulling out, and I guess the human body can only take so much. So now
Yeah,
he's going to be in damage control and rehab, and I guarantee if he's hurt, he can't chance the President's Cup because I can tell you this: when I hurt my back, there's a whole nother level of hurting it after that too. Like I came back, tried to play. And I'm just an average grinding 6 handicap guy who just loves to play golf every day, all day. And I came back and I'm like, oh my God, I can't even play golf. What am I going to do with myself? Sell shoes, sell sneakers, and business is a booming right now.
Nike Dunks, everybody, Nike Dunks.
Big SB drop tomorrow from Pro Skate.
There is. There is a big drop tomorrow.
15 pairs I bought them. I hope I guessed right on this one because I can't take getting yelled at anymore. I've been home for 2 days. Why is she all over me?
Oh my gosh, Bobby, can I tell you that I have been criticized? My Air Jordan collection has grown extensively.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, she started seeing the boxes coming in
Yeah.
and
Hope
has
you took the
not been
price tag
happy
off.
because we're getting married next March. Oh yeah, of course, but
You're in
next
big
March,
trouble.
and it's like this money's not going towards the wedding. And it's like, ooh,
Yeah.
ouch, that's gonna, yeah. So that's been an issue, especially lately. And I'm like, babe, I only have like 3 more pairs coming in the mail, so just please don't yell at me.
Yeah.
Like I've stopped since we've talked.
Right.
So it's
Like
one of
I
those
can have
combos.
You know, the bad thing for me is that, you know, I've taken up all this closet space. When I come home, you know, you got to keep the boxes in pristine condition that they come in. You can't be throwing
You
the shit
have
in the
to.
closet or get aggravated as your man and throw them underneath the bed and they don't fit underneath the bed and all shit gets crinkled up. But I probably, I probably moved 15 to 25 pairs of shoes shipped in the last 2 days. And when I'm shipping them in, I'm getting more in, right? Because now I got a system on what's going to be hot and not. And it's so funny. The 3 pairs got dropped off yesterday. I'm home with my 9-year-old and 5-year-old just hanging out. We go run a couple of errands. We come up the stairs and there's 3 boxes. And my 5-year-old looks at me and goes, "More shoes, Dad? That's so annoying." And I'm like, I wonder where the hell he got that from. And I'm just staring Lori down. I didn't say a damn word, right?
Oh my
So I'm
God,
like,
I'm dead inside right now.
why is he all over me? I've only been home for 2 days. Remember me and Micah were talking about it?
You got to fit back into their routines. That's what's going on.
Right back into the loop, and you just don't know exactly where you fit in that loop. The first day I was dick yesterday. I was short and rude to everybody. I woke up in a foul mood, and it wasn't, 6 hours later, and I'm like, God, why am I acting like that? I am 58 years old. I'm not a fucking 9-year-old here. And then the second day I always get a little bit better, but she's still all over me right now.
Oh, I'm dying
she's
right now.
She's asleep upstairs. She can't hear a word. She's going to hear this tomorrow.
Yeah, though. She's going to listen for sure. So is Alyssa.
Big day for us tomorrow. School starts tomorrow, and she's a teacher at the boys Montessori school. So
it is late in August, isn't it?
And check it out. I get peace and quiet on Thursday and Friday because I got 3 different TVs, and I got Crans, Montana, in the Swiss Alps is one of my favorite tournaments. That's on the European Tour coming up. They play on like this ski resort. And guess what happens? Troy gets a call on Friday night he's played that before from the tournament director. He's like, "Oh, Troy, do you want to come and play the Trans Montana?" And Troy's like, I kind of do. I kind of don't. So I get in the car the next morning. He's like, "Man, we got invited to go to Trans Montana." And I'm like, "Oh, who's caddying for you? Because I'm going home." He goes,
"Bobby, you were done."
He goes 6,500 one way. And I'm like, "Yeah, who's caddying for you? Because I'm fucking going home." He goes, "No, I told him I couldn't go. They must be Jones. They must be Jones in the field, fill the DP World field." He said,
"That's hilarious." Yeah. But listen, if Troy had called you in on those putts, that response from you probably would have been different.
I ain't going to Crans, Montana for a fraction of a World Cup of world ranking points. Oh my God, how greedy do I sound at my age now where I'm at my career in a $3 million purse. I would have given my IT 15 years ago to be anywhere close to a $3 million purse now.
You should have hooked up your son. I got a caddy for you.
Yeah, no, my son's got Pearson Cootie. He's got a player that's going to be on
hang
tour
on a
for
second.
20 years.
So I know this wasn't on our agenda tonight, but did it already happen? The Corn Ferry,
the first 25 cards went out the week before last.
Okay.
So they gave 25 guys, 25 cards, and and if you know the story, my son's guy Pearson Cootie, #1 college player out of Texas, won a ton of times. Got a twin brother Parker Cootie, just won last week on the Canadian Tour. Go figure.
Yeah, good genes.
Yeah, I think Pearson played in 8 events and won the 4th one in Maine after the previous week was in the mix when Norman Zhang won from San Diego. And so anyways, I think they finished 29 or 30, which is great. But after you win, you're like, man, I've only played 4 events. I'm going to get my card. So he did not get that. So now they're doing this 3-week hustle up, get all you can get for 25 more cards. And he barely made the cut on the number. Will Gordon won it, who was on tour a year before last, lost his status. Super bomber, got all the shots. He'll probably be back for good now. And he won, but my son's guy finished 21st. Well, not 21st in the tournament, but he'd be after 1 week, he'd be number 21.
Nice.
After just making the cut on the number. Because I'm probably confuse people, but even though the top 25 guys that already have their cards locked up, they're all playing in this because they all want to be #1. Because if you're #1 coming out of this 3-week playoff, you don't reshuffle, right? Your number is gold. You don't reshuffle. You're in.
That's important.
And the players, and you're in everything but the invitationals, which would be like Tiger's Tournament, Bay Hill, and that kind of stuff. So that's a big deal. So my point is though, even though maybe 13 guys had already got their cards finished in front of them, they stagger, right? They don't double. You can't get a double card. So I probably confused the shit out of everybody with that.
Oh, for sure, 100%. There's no doubt. I mean, only the avid guys are gonna understand. Like, I'm sitting here going, yeah, no, it actually makes sense. Like, you want to cement yourself in your top place, and then obviously that's not going to change from there. But with that said, I know that was a little bit of a side topic that I wanted to bring up just really quick since we started talking. Well, I brought up your son, so it's my fault, everybody. Now. And we will have him on soon enough because
he is. We're going to have him on here after these playoffs are over, and hopefully he's going to tell us some great stories about what he thinks about this kid. And they got their card, and they'll be playing on tour next year. But we had the big secret meeting last week.
I know.
Big secret player meeting last week.
Bobby, do we know anything from this other than like? Did you see the one leak? The one leak to a major media outlet. And it was like very vague, but yet at the same time, it was kind of like, oh, there's going to be stipends. There's going to be this new venture by Tiger and McIlroy that the guys seem to be interested in. But do we have any more details around this?
Okay, so here's the details what we have. There was the secret invite meeting where I think the top 20 or 30 best players.
It was the top 25, I believe.
And most influential players. Yeah. Were there, which I can tell you the grumblings from working for Troy Merritt or guys that weren't in that meeting were not like positive, like, yeah, only the big wigs get to go, or they throw a couple names out that the guys are kind of yahoos or whatever. For the most part, they're all great guys, but there's always one or two guys that are a little bit full of themselves. Sure. So that was kind of weird. But I do know that what came out of that meeting, that it is not top secret anymore, that, fight fire with fire. So now they're all brainstorming for the year after next on making this where we have 18 tournaments or something like that, only the top 60 play in from the previous year, top 60 in the world or top 60 off of FedEx. I would imagine it's FedEx. And they're going to play for like $20 million a week. I don't have all the details. So that's kind of a touche to live a little bit. And then there's going to be like the fall season where numbers like 61 or something through one whatever fight it out for their status the next year, not being in the top 60. So as we reported, right, there was, everybody's talking about 7 guys going. I didn't know. I haven't heard 7 solid names because
so it started off with 5. So and okay. It was okay. 5 came just about a week ago.
Yeah, and then now social media has climbed it up to 7. But here's what I know, right? Okay, this is what I know came out of this meeting. Cam Smith, Mark Leishman, who am I missing?
You got me. So you've got Cam Smith,
I'm going to talk about
Leishman.
The guys that I know are going for
gotcha.
Sure.
Okay.
The guys that peeled back. So Smith, Leishman, I know I'm missing some other ones. Oh, I got to tell you, it was like Tuesday or Wednesday before the Pro-Am. This is a little live story. And I was, tee times were backed up because of weather, and I was sitting on the putting green talking to Grillo, Emiliano Grillo, and the live topic came up and that kind of stuff. And he's like, we were talking about who's going, who's not going, and that kind of stuff. And he was kind of giving me some scoop, and he goes, he's going. And I looked behind me, and there was Harold Varner and had a big 40-minute powwow with Jay Monahan. It wasn't like really animated or anything like that, but it was a 40-minute meeting, and they were in close proximity to each other. And I'm like, you sure? Because I thought Harold shut it down, right? And he's like, oh no, he told me at breakfast he's going for sure. So Harold's going. I guess my point
that one's devastating to me because he's a Jordan guy, and then he's also. I mean, he had. Jordan guy. I know, but Pat. God bless you, Pat. But like
just say it.
Well, good old Pat, he can go. I'm okay with that because that makes sense, right? He's got a big house to pay for in Scottsdale. Yeah. We've all seen it. It's like he's got a lot of bills, and that's fun. Like, I'm good with Pat going, and he was very honest about it, about him. Like, he's like, dude, this was life-changing money. I've got to take it. Yeah. $10 million. I can't turn that down.
But back up, he was dishonest at Riviera when he was shelling everybody, and then
yes. Well, no, I don't think he knew that he was going to go because that offer was done by DJ. Like, DJ's the one that actually got him that deal, and he never thought it was coming. Mikey on this podcast, Mikey Perez on this podcast kept saying, like, if my brother gets offered, he's going. I can tell you, I can guarantee you that one. Even though they weren't talking, he's like, I know he's going to go, and that's where, like, for him, good. like, hey man, good for you. You got your money. Fantastic. Now the Harold Varner
Yeah,
the third,
yeah.
he adds diversity to the tour. He's got
Well,
the Jordan brand. That's a tough one for me because I look at diversity, especially within golf. It's like, it's not, you don't see a lot of diversity outside of international realm and so forth. But like having somebody like Harold Varner the third on the tour, having the Nike brand, and even the guys from Eastside Golf, it's like, interacting and so forth and bringing that all together. I love that. And I love that it's a part of the tour, and to lose out on that, like I wasn't upset at Cam Smith. I wasn't upset at a lot of these guys that have gone over, but man, Harold Varner the third, like
yeah.
that's a
Well,
tough one.
you said it. He's a figure out here. I mean, it's 2022. We don't need to state the obvious. He was a figure out here, and he was representing, and
A
he's
community.
I mean, he's a good, yeah. I mean, he's a good, solid player out here. He's like Troy. He's a good, solid player out here. He's never won. He won that one over there in Europe where he made Eagle late. That was fantastic. I think he won the Australian Open, so he's a proven winner. But there and here is a big difference to me.
Yeah,
There and here is
same.
a big difference. But then again, you gotta flip back, right? Harold Varner, grew up in Gastonia, North Carolina. It's a very small town, not a lot of employment. His mom and dad worked his ass off to support him. I'm just gonna guess he didn't grow up with any money. We all, all of us most of us have been there. We can relate to that. So, when they come around with a chunk of change, I guess it's got to be hard to say no to something like that. But
That has to be. You're right. I mean, you actually raise a really good point
yeah,
that if he got offered a bunch of money, and it has not been reported yet as to how much. I mean, Cam
yeah.
Smith, it's $100 million. So like, you're not going to turn that down.
Harold wouldn't be a third of that. Harold
Yeah.
would be roughly a third of that, maybe. I think at the
But
most.
even that, I mean, that's a lot for him.
Yeah,
Somebody who's
yeah,
never won on
yeah.
tour.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm not going to second guess a guy like that. It's funny, but on Sunday, he had turned it down. But Sunday of Memphis, there were some of us caddies, and the players got to come out of the locker room and walk through caddy dining, and we're watching the end of the tournament. And oh no, let me back up. It was when that hearing was going on. Excuse me, in San Francisco, and we were all watching it, and and I had mentioned it. It just dropped. Shipnuck had just dropped the fact that the plaintiff's attorney had said, "Hey, these contracts with these guys, the money is recouped from the guarantee." So Harold was walking by, and I'm like, "Oh man, did you see this?" And I showed it to him, and he looked at me real funny, and he goes, "Not every deal's like that." And he kind of smiled and walked out.
Ooh.
So I should have taken the hint right there.
Yeah,
That this
that
thing
was a big
probably,
tell there, Bobby. Read the room.
why is she all over me? Man? I game. Um,
Now, hang on a second.
hey,
So the seven
yeah,
we have as far as going was, and this is before what you're about to drop on us. So Mito Pereira, Cam Young, Hideki Matsuyama, Harold Varner III, Joaquin Neiman, Mark
yeah.
Leishman, and Cam Smith. That was the seven. So that was
Okay.
the seven that they were expecting.
Okay.
Now, give us a little bit of insight as to some of the guys that may have rescinded or
Yes.
rethought.
I think so. Mito Pereira, Cam Young, Hideki, and Joaquin Neiman apparently, after that meeting and seeing what's in the future for the PGA Tour, I think have done some serious soul thinking. And the room around the campfire is they have reversed their path to live, and they are now going to stay, which would be good for Trevor's
So that's
international.
four. So they would only
Yeah.
have three players going over at that
Yeah,
point.
yeah. But there'll be a sneaky sleeper or something that's been brewing for a while that we don't
Well,
know.
there
Oh,
will be that secret
oh,
one, right? Because as soon as those drop off and they get word and everything, and they might get word right now from this podcast. But that being said, as soon as those guys are gone, that money is going to be offered to somebody else.
yep, that's true. But I mean, Friday's going to be a big day. Don't they drop the field? That Boston tournament's next week, right? So they'll drop the field for Liv. Probably knowing Liv, they'll probably drop it on Wednesday or Thursday or something.
Well,
Knowing
that's what
that.
I was saying at the beginning of this. It's like there's no doubt, which it didn't necessarily come from Liv, but
Hmm.
it came from Liv. Like
Yeah.
they leaked that information, and that's how they started with five. And then all of a sudden, all the media outlets started reporting that LIV Golf was about to announce. And of course, they're talking about this during the BMW Championship They're probably going to announce all of this on Friday, which if you're Cam Smith, how can you feel about being in that field? You had to withdraw from the BMW Championship to let this kind of whirlwind of media attention kind of back off of you. And it worked, by the way. Like, whoever his agent is did a great job because
he's going to get $20 million here in a week or two.
Yeah, so
he should do a great job.
But if that gets released on Friday, let's say, and he's in the lead,
well, I can tell you one thing. It's a perfect storm for him, right? Because it's Atlanta. There's only 29 guys now that will dropped out. So it's not like everybody is on top of each other practicing and there's 100 some guys in the field, and the less guys he runs into, the better for his position, I would matter. And you got to think about the crowd at Atlanta too. It's just outside Atlanta. So it's a very diversified crowd, but they respect golf there, right? It's almost got, I don't want to say it's got a little Augusta feel, but you don't hear any bullshit. You don't even see anybody hammered out there. I mean, I know it got crazy when Tiger won, but that was a iconic moment in the game when they broke through and came down the 18th fairway. But they respect everybody out there, so it should be cool with him. But there's always strategy and competition between LIV and the PGA Tour, more on LIV side, because it almost seems childish to me, some of the things that does that not make sense? They fire this or they fire that, and it's like they just want to get everybody's engine burning.
Oh no, they're doing it for attention. It's all about media attention, and LIV has won the game when it comes to media attention. They have absolutely won from the very beginning of this entire thing, and that was some of the mistakes that I've talked about with the PGA Tour and with Jay. But that being said, like, that's an easy thing to fall into, because the fear of a hostile takeover and everything that we've talked about already on previous episodes is real. Like, when you're dealing with deep pockets that you can't compete with, and you can't compete with it, like, you start to overreact to things. But that being said, going back to Cam Smith especially, and if all of a sudden he's in the lead and they drop this information that he has signed with them, like, that to me is very dirty pool. I wouldn't be on board with that, because that throws Cam Smith under the bus, throws everybody under the bus. And it also brings up one other thing. Because as you're at Eastlake and it's this great crew, and it was one of the questions that I actually had for you, and it's a little bit off topic, but you brought it up. So they do not backfill for Will Zalatoris' spot. It's only 29 players now.
Oh yeah. They don't backfill. No backfill.
What about on the leaderboard? Do they move guys up in terms of the under par? So now it's just that number's removed.
10, 8, 6, however it's staggered all the way back to even. But I know everybody's lobbying. John Rahm and Cantlay, I think he said in his press conference today, he doesn't like to see here's a winner of it. He's like, I don't like anything about the system. It has to be changed. And he goes, but he's honest. He's like, but I wouldn't have the foggiest idea how you would change it.
It's complicated.
I've been there in this system for a couple times. I can tell you something. Just because you started even doesn't mean you're out of it. You can shoot. They can usually guys will get it. There's going to be a 5 or 6 or somebody scaring 7 the first day before those greens really start drying out at East. Like, I know too well. And you can have a guy from the back of the pack shoot 5 or 6 under, and also the leader shoots even or 1 over, and it's just like, I just accepted it every time I was there. I'm not smart enough to know how you figure it. I saw one clown put up like a match play thing or something like that on seeds and everything like that, and I'm like, well, we already have that in Austin, the match play. You can't really wear that out, and it doesn't show who necessarily the best golfer is. It does in match play for sure, but not for stroke play.
Well, it's a different skill. Like, people don't realize, like, match play versus stroke play, completely different. Now, I do think there should be a major that should be a match play, which the PGA used to be, and that would be cool to add a major to where it's match play based, because that's a different skill level. Like, you're a competitor, you're going up against somebody else, you're going to rise to the occasion, you're going to rise to the person that you're playing with. And we heard from people like James Hahn and Matt Every, who literally told us, like, as a competitor, as an athlete, like, I want to go up against somebody, and if I'm competing against them and they're playing well, I'm playing well, like, they thrive off of that in tour events. Like, that would be awesome to see as a major once again of match play. But I digress, because I can go on and on about match play, because that was always my best. I always far excelled in match play than I ever did in stroke play. Now, that being said, people who I gamble against in golf, that doesn't mean anything, okay? So we're going to continue playing match play. But the other side to this, when it comes to LIV Golf and everything, is what is really a part of the meeting that took place, and the rumors that are coming in is that they're going to play nice with LIV Golf moving forward. That was kind of the summary from what I've heard from the different major media outlets and so forth, that, you know, as long as those guys stay over there, we're okay with it. Like, that was kind of the consensus from the meeting. Did you hear anything different?
No, I didn't hear anything different, but I just don't. The only sense that I get is the PGA Tour is not going to stoop to their level. You know, they're not going to comment on anything. They're going to let them do all the throwing all the knives around and that kind of stuff. And the PGA Tour is just going to continue to move forward. I can tell you one interesting thing Grillo told me, though. Yeah. He's like, man, if I could change one thing, we were sitting there on this Wednesday Pro-Am. It's boring. You know, there's no excitement. I mean, geez, I shouldn't even say it, but half the guys don't even want to be there. They're only there because they have to.
It's an obligation.
It's an obligation. It's a final look at the golf course. And Tuesdays are boring as shit too, you know. But Grill brought up and he goes, "Why not make Tuesdays and Wednesdays a little bit like Scottsdale now? Have a band, during." They're trying to do that with Kelly James comes on a par 3T and does his little rapping, but that gets
never loved it. Yeah.
Yeah, the first time you see it, you're like, man, he's pretty good. The second time, you're like, yeah, he's still good. The third time, he's like, shut the fuck up. You're like, shut the fuck up.
I've heard the same thing, man.
Yeah, shut the fuck up, man. So, but he made a good point. Put a little excitement, a little band out there or something on Wednesday, or have a little beer garden or something, and get a little electricity.
Make it rowdy. Make it fun.
Yeah. Maybe it will be fun, because Scottsdale, for as much as it's like can be annoying, it's a blast. We all love it, right? We all love it. Hot-looking chicks rolling around. She's upstairs. I can say it. Hot-looking chicks rolling around. Everybody's hammered.
Everybody's hammered.
Tossed up. You deal with the noise. It's almost kind of part of the deal. Yeah. You know, you don't tell anybody to shut up or be quiet, because then they just throw a beer at you or laugh at you or something. So, you know, it's something that they'll think about in the future if that word gets around. I'm sure they're calling a lot of Omaha Peyton Mannings right now, a lot of audibles as a speaker.
Omaha.
Yeah. But the biggest gist is that with this new plan coming up in a couple of years, it's going to save those guys from going. Because I can tell you one thing: if Hideki goes, that's a huge blow, because they're going to, you know, you have no idea the entourage of media. Nobody gets it more than Hideki. If it's a big tournament, there's 30, 40 guys following him around. He's got the same camera crew, the same crew every single week. There's probably 12 to 15 guys out there during practice rounds, and they have to take him away from media to do his own little private thing. And there could be 30 to 60 Asian reporters there. So he's just that big. And so if he would have happened to go, you know, you would see some kind of TV deal coming. And if they get a TV deal, then, you know, all of a sudden.
Well, they have partnered tightly with DP World Tour, right? So all of
a
sudden. But no, I'm sorry, not DP. Sorry, yeah. Let me rephrase this, everybody.
Asian Tour.
The Asian Tour. I don't know why I went to the DP World Tour. You started talking about Hideki, and I have no idea why I went there. But no, it's the Asian Tour that they've partnered heavily with. So if they do get a TV deal, that could end up being a big factor to it.
You know what we need to talk about? How about the douchebag Patrick Reed slamming the Golf Channel and Brandel's League with a $750 million suit? Why? So you can feed your $4 more Twinkies, Patrick? What the hell are we doing over there? What is he thinking? Boy, he's got some deep-rooted hate for the tour. Brought it all. Yeah. His reputation precedes him.
I can tell you where it stems from, and I'm not a Patrick Reed fan because I did business with Patrick Reed, and he did.
I've heard a few of these stories.
The ultimate, where the gentleman who was working for me at the time went in, brought his 13-year-old son with him, who was a phenom golfer, and Golf Digest had written articles about him. And Patrick Reed, when he arrives on site, he goes, "What the fuck is the kid doing here?"
Yeah.
And he's like, well, he wanted to meet you. That's fucking inappropriate. All this stuff. Like, and he was getting chastised. And then the wife comes in, starts chastising him even more. So like, this is a direct story that I'm just like, and he immediately calls me afterwards. He's like, Matt, I'm so sorry. I'm like, dude, that's not on you. That's bad form. Like, that is just bad form.
No class.
No class whatsoever. And he even in the last event of Live, he kicked out a guy for literally saying, "Oh, I should have fluffed it up a little bit more for you." When it came to he flubbed a chip, and the guy, it apparently like ran up against him in the spectator crowd. Yeah, it was a bullshit, and they actually had it on the Live broadcast because they do everything so fast, right? And he's like, "That guy, he's got to get out of here," and you could even hear him repeat it and go, "No, that guy gotta go." And it's just like, really, for that type of comment? Come on, man, you got to be classier than that.
Yeah,
and that's something that he has zero class. I mean, he's a cheater. He cheated. I mean, everybody who's played with him, I mean, even on tour, and that's where, like, he's throwing out these lawsuits and so forth. Like, I feel terrible for Chambly because he plays a personality on TV.
Question. Did they take him? Is he off the air? Because I watch Golf Channel all the time. I haven't seen him recently.
I wonder if they did, because
we would have heard about that, though.
Yeah, we would have heard about it. I don't think so. It's probably scheduling. Yeah, because we're towards the end of the year and everything. And I mean, even if they did, they're just kind of trying to take the heat away from him probably a little bit. But man, what did he do? Like $750 million is the lawsuit or something like that? Just stupidity, man. It pisses me off. But the one thing, we were talking about Pat Perez, and the one thing that I will bring up is that I was actually surprised to see that he had the wherewithal to pull out of the antitrust lawsuit.
Settle down, my man. There's always an angle with that son of a bitch. You know what his angle is? Because you know what happens? If they lose the lawsuit, they all have to split attorney's fees. Both sides, the players. So that cheap-ass motherfucker knew exactly what he was doing. He pulled out for a fucking reason. That's the big scoop around. There you go, Pat. That was a big talk around BMW. Finally got even with you. You like to talk behind every other person's back, but now we get to talk about you.
That was
that's why he did it, because he didn't think they could win, and he can't afford to get banged for the. You know, you're fighting this thing till 2024. They're already working hourly. You know, how many millions of dollars are we talking about? So just X that good guy Pat decision.
There it is. Everybody, the inside scoop, the unfiltered podcast. Pull up golf, baby.
Always an
all day.
Son of a bitch. He can't help himself. That's the way he is. Oh, I miss Mikey. I miss the cool Perez.
I know, Mikey's the good one, man. He's such a good dude. I love Mikey Perez. But really, the last thing is, like, who you got coming up at East Lake? Like, who's?
I was thinking about that today.
Yeah, come on there, Bobby.
Well, you just got to go with. I mean,
I need to make some money here.
I saw Scheffler out there rookie year, play up close with him for 2 weeks, and I think he's going to win one of these. But man, I think it's like a cold deck, heavy favorite trifecta in this order. I would trifecta box Cantlay. This is so vanilla. Cantlay, Schauffele, and Scheffler. What a genius I am! I picked the three betting favorites right there.
Can I tell you who my favorite is this week?
Yeah, don't say Sungjae. I got a theory for you. Go.
No,
what?
It's not one of your Koreans. Come on.
Zalatoris is out.
I know. No,
Who's plan B?
I'm going Schauffele because he plays so fucking well at East Lake.
Yeah.
I think he comes back out of the fold and wins this fucking thing.
So this Cantley plays good there. I'm going to tell you what. I'm going to tell you. I know I got a couple guys on here that like wagering on golf. You know who I think you bet against? Good thing he doesn't speak good English, but Hideki. For some reason, Hideki doesn't like that place. I remember a couple of years ago, you know, Sungjae was trying to get a chipping lesson from him, and he was basically telling him, he's like, man, I hate this place. This is the last place. I'm the last person you need a chipping lesson from. They're trying to figure out how to identify how short-sighted comes out of this Bermuda that sinks to the bottom. Was there more speed in it? Was it a longer swing? Was it a longer, slower swing? You know, I would, for anybody betting $20, whoever Hideki's matched against, take them. I'll tell you what, this is what will happen in the next 3 to 5 years, hopefully. Sungjae Caddy for him there. He plays that golf course well. But as soon as he gets his shit together upstairs mentally, because like I told you after watching him in Memphis, and I told him at breakfast last week, I go, how do you not win 5 times a week? I know he knew what I was saying. I go, how do you not win 5 times a week? I don't understand it, you know, but I know the answer is because he just loses his top out there. But if he, as soon as Sungjae gets his shit together, I'm going to call him a multiple tour championship, multi-gazillionaire. And unfortunately, I won't be on the bag.
But you said he doesn't work the ball. You gotta work the ball.
Well, I don't. The greens are not small at East Light. I know they look small on TV, but there's some bigger greens. I'm just telling you what I saw next to him for 4 days. He's very comfortable. He's just I can fucking tell when a player's comfortable.
You can.
At a golf course.
Listen,
and he is
the shit that you've told me, 100%, you're spot on.
Yeah, you can tell. I can tell he's comfortable. And like I said, he's going to cash a W there. I don't think it's going to be this year because I don't think he's quite matured yet. But as soon as he does, I mean, he could potentially be a top 5 player in the world. You know, we're all looking for the next American superstar. I know who the next Asian superstar is, and it's him. For sure, I'd take him 9 times out of 10 over Tom Kim. Me and you both nailed that one last week. I told you what I thought about Tom Kim. You could start moving to 7,500 yards. You know, and you're slinging 4 and 5 iron in there.
The kid's got to get in the gym.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it's got to change some. I'm going to tell you a funny Tom Kim story. All right. So they got it's Wilmington Country Club, right? We got a free T-shirt, and look at the BMW logo.
I mean, that's a sharp looking shirt. It looks soft. Are you going to send me one, Bobby? I'm sending you another polo golf hat. Which, by the way, hang on a second. Quick segment here, or quick little snapshot. That hat, put your head down. Oh, yeah. That's the one from our shop. That is our Navy hat, the full pull hook golf logo. Man, that looks good, Bobby.
You know what's even better about it? That's forest green on the inside. Class A.
It's so good.
Yeah, Navy and forest green.
The classic snapback.
Yeah. I thought Troy was like, "Oh, I'm sure your man Full Hook Golf's going to throw thousands of dollars at you next year to wear the hat and have it on the sleeve." And I go, "Wouldn't that be great if the name was anything but Pole Hook? I mean, I cannot have you stand." He thought that was so funny. He just started cracking up.
That's why it's in cursive, though, so you don't have to actually understand what it looks like.
Yeah, my big thing is how a hat fits around the ears, especially you got to have space around the ears because you can get that ear headache that caddies get all the time, and especially if it's sunny out and you've got to throw shades on. You got to have just a little bit of room. So that's my sales pitch. It's perfect. It's a perfect lid, bro.
It looks
good. Ordered a perfect lid. What were we talking about?
Man,
I go off on somebody.
Yeah, you were. You were going off on Sungjae, and
yeah.
But I can't remember exactly what we were going off on though about him.
No, just how he needs to mature. But he's like I said.
Oh no, Tom Kim. So
the little fat boy. Oh, the locker room story. So it's a sweet spread. There's only 67 guys in there. It's a massive locker room. Caddy's got their own locker room. Nobody ever fucking goes in because it's like a detached building. It's the ladies' locker room. It's over by the pool, and the pool's not open. We don't have anything to see. It's all golf. So originally I had scheduled a late flight that left at 8 o'clock or something like that, but we didn't play good. We finished so early, so I had caught this 4 o'clock nonstop. So I'm like. Twosomes. And can I tell you one good thing about LIV? If LIV takes, I told Troy this, I go, if LIV takes 70 players, we should play twosomes because twosomes you just fly through. You don't get tired. It's 3 hours and 45 minutes. You're always moving. You're always talking. The vibe is so good. But anyway, so I've been in the locker room and I'm taking a quick shower, right? And I see and God, I'm going to say this, but Detroit and this place, these old school clubs don't have what do you call it? The shower curtain.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Or like an actual shower. It's all open.
Cool. I'm 58-year-old caddy with a belly, right? I'm tiptoeing around there, and I'm not pulling those underwear off until I get into my cubicle. Nobody's checking out my shit. So I'm walking there to go take a shower, and there's 2 sets of showers, right? And I figured out the one that has a wall next to it, so I could only be half seen. Well, here comes Tom Kim out of the dum-dum shower, right? And he's got his towel on, and his belly's hanging over. And he says to the guy, I was laughing my ass off. I'll tell you why, because this is almost racist. But he goes, no, any more showers? You know, and the guy's like, oh, yeah, you can go. There's another set down there. And he goes, no, shower curtains? He's like, oh, the ladies' locker room, the caddies' locker room. Our men don't like it for some reason here. So we've been fighting with them for years, but there's no curtains. But I can walk you over to the ladies' locker room, and he's wearing a towel. And he's like, do I have to change clothes or everything? And the first thing I'm thinking to myself is little dick Tom Kim can't show it off. In front of the 35-year-olds. Yeah, there ain't no pubes there or nothing. It's just a peach right now, you know, and he didn't want to be seen. So they walked him over to our caddy/ladies locker room, and he took a shower over there. And that's all I could think about driving with Troy, right? That's all I could think about. I'm like, little Dick Tom, good, show it off. We've all been there, Junior. Hey, water it with female saliva. It'll grow. I promise you.
I'm dead right now. I'm dead. For our poor podcast listeners, I am dying inside with laughter. I think I'm crying.
It took an hour and 28 minutes for me to come to the good shit.
Oh my God. It always does though, because listen, by the time we get towards the end of the episode, we start opening up a little bit and everything. I think that's why everybody kind of hangs in there with us as we get through. Like, we've got great content in the beginning of the episodes, right? And through the middle and towards the end, but then towards the end, we start getting a little loose, and that's where the unfiltered part really starts to creep in, and our real fans are the ones that stay till now and listen through the entire episode. And I'm going to tell you that whenever we do this, Bobby, and we start getting a little loose with everything towards the end, I always receive text messages and like messages on DMs on Instagram and so forth, to where they're like, dude, that last like 20 minutes was hilarious. You and Bobby just started freaking going nuts. And I mean, that's what this is all about. Because the people that, but I'm telling you, like the 3/4 way through the episode, like those are for the casual listeners. Yeah. And those are for the people that want to be critics and so forth. This last portion, this is for the real people right now. And we don't throw this out there in like little clips and so forth. We throw this on Instagram and all of a sudden be at fucking 100,000 followers in a heartbeat with the shit that we talk about in the last quarter of a goddamn episode. But
I'm trying to crack 1,500 this week. That's my goal.
There you go, everybody. Start spreading the goddamn word about Pull Hook Golf. This podcast is just, I get an absolute kick out of it. We both Bobby and I, we kind of re-listen to episodes, and we're like, we throw shit back and forth. We're like, holy shit, can you believe that this happened? Yeah. And it's a blast, man. But that hat that you're wearing, go to the shop, Pull Hook Golf. It's on Instagram. You can buy it right from Instagram, or our actual shop is Pull Hook Golf. Or actually, hang on a second. I'm going to get this wrong.
You better get it right.
Yeah. So it is, well, I'm going to tell you right now. Go to pullhookgolf.com. There's a section that says shop. Go to the shop. It's going to take you right through the correct link, because the shop is on Spotify or Shopify, not Spotify, Shopify. And you can get all of the great Pull Hook Golf stuff. Bobby, did I tell you what I ordered recently? I got the duffel bag and the backpack coming.
Oh, I saw that.
My fiance will not allow me. So her name's Alyssa. She will not allow me to keep the backpack. She says that is hers. So Alyssa, we got to be careful when we order stuff.
Sounds like somebody's getting married soon.
I'm getting the handcuffs.
I got news for you, pal. The word no is now no longer in your repertoire. Not for a long, long time. Why is she all over me?
Touche.
All right, is that it?
That's it, Bobby. We reached the end of the episode. So who is your final pick for Atlanta?
I like Cantley, back to back.
Cantley? Okay, I love it.
2/3 of the trifecta.
Mine is Shoffley.
You know what I was going to throw in on the following note? It's funny you don't see any of those names up there at Memphis, because it was a different style golf course. And this Atlanta course is more like it's a little Memphis-y with the grasses and that kind of stuff. But I started thinking about it, and I'm like, well, those big horses weren't really ready to run in Memphis. Like Rory said, he hadn't picked up a club in 2 weeks. Cantley hadn't been doing nothing. Scheffler hadn't been doing nothing. Shoffley hadn't been doing anything, maybe playing at home. So they just, those great ones, cream of the crop, rise to the top. They play their way into form.
It's going to be a great FedEx Cup Championship. I mean, I'm looking forward to it. And until next week there, Bobby, thank you once again.
See you later, my man.
You are the man. Thank you for tuning in to Season 2 of the Pull Hook Golf Podcast. Make sure to hit subscribe and go to www.pullhookgolf.com for more information.